Hello and welcome to the Dohyo here on Mr. JWags channel. We are here at the work desk and it is time for a Hagaki-Yoi, one of our special episodes where we talk to you, the people, and we go through your comments and questions and we talk about them. First question is from viewer Conball, and the question is, part of what I love about sumo is the theatricality, rituals, rules, a stage, a script, players, roles. I see this theatricality as part of how a yokozuna gets his aura, his swagger, for example. As a man in the theater world and in the sumo world, what's your favorite feature of both sumo and theater? That is a great question. The thing I think I love most about both of those things, first, it's the idea of an appointment for something to happen. So in the modern world, a lot of things are on demand, but the idea of sumo and theater both being things where it's like you buy a ticket for a date and a time, and the thing you want to see is going to happen at that time, and we're all going to share that moment together. So I guess the thing I love about live performance is one of the things in both of them. And I am kind of a sucker for ritual, and goodness knows the theater has a lot of superstitions, and sumo seems to have a lot of superstitions that have worked their way into ceremony, and isn't that the way all ceremonies sort of begin? So yes, I do like a bit of pomp and circumstance, and sumo and theater both deliver on that. Sub-question, revised thoughts on the likelihood of Kirishima making Yokozuna given his current issues. I don't think I really have a change, because my stance on Kirishima is complicated, but it is. Of all of the current Ozeki, I think he has the best chance of being made Yokozuna in the next year. Well, I mean, we're two basho into it. So for the rest of the year, I think he has the best chance, but I don't think we're going to get a new one. So if Kirishima's chance is like, he's got 30% chance of making Yokozuna, that's still a 70% chance he doesn't make Yokozuna. We have a lot of very good wrestlers up and near the Sanyaku. I just don't see Kirishima pulling off 2 in a row for the rest of the year, but I do expect him to clear Kataban. Next question from viewer George Reeves Jr. 8289. It seems that every decade in sumo has the guy that dominates a decade. Chiyonofuji in the 80s, Takanohana and Akebono in the 90s, Asashoryu in the 2000s, and Hakuoho in the 10s. If you had to choose, who do you think the next the guy is? Not necessarily the next Yokozuna, but who is the next dominator of an era? One of our current Ozeki or one of the new hotness coming up? I do love our current crop of Ozeki. They're all under 28. They're all raring to go. It's just when I have looked at the history of Yokozuna runs and Alpha Dogs, usually they start hitting their stride a bit sooner than our current crop of Ozeki. So I would say that I think that our next Alpha Dog is most likely going to be someone who is like Hoshoryu's age or younger. Onosato and Hakuoho look very good, but there are so many roads to just one little thing derailing a career. So right now things are looking great, but it can just take one thing. Viewer Brandon Winstead asked a lot of questions. Some of these questions I have answered on previous Hagaki-Yois, but we are going to go with, do you consume other Japanese culture? Yes, I do consume other Japanese culture. I'm a huge fan of Japanese cinema. Particularly, I love the Studio Ghibli films, the Hayao Miyazaki movies like Spirited Away. He just won an Oscar for Boy and the Heron. I think those are great. If you have not seen a Studio Ghibli film, watch them. I also love the films of Akira Kurosawa, like the classic samurai film director. And more recently, I guess, Takashi Miike, I think is how you pronounce his name. He does a lot of fascinating, very sort of Tarantino-esque horror and action movies, and I've really found his work interesting. A few of you asked, including Daniel Hazelrig 4351. I'm super fascinated with Rikishi's Kesha Mawashi. I was wondering if you have any favorites, and what's your favorite regular Mawashi color? I mean, a favorite Mawashi color just is sort of going to end up being like a favorite color, so I may do an episode. What do you guys think if I do an episode, like my favorite pairings of like wrestler personality and Mawashi color, and which ones are sort of like the best combos of the two? Because otherwise it's just a list of favorite colors. Favorite Kesha Mawashi. Now there are some really, really beautiful ones out there, but I think my favorite is probably when Takayasu, who's like Mr. Stoneface, Mr. Serious, had like a Charlie Chaplin, and it was a really beautiful like image of Chaplin just hand woven in silk into this Kesha Mawashi. It was just such a lovely juxtaposition of like serious face Takayasu and like grinning Charlie Chaplin. So that I think would be my favorite. Viewer at Whale Sequence asks, Takerufuji or Hakuoho? Well, Hakuoho is younger, but he's currently working his way back up through Judio, so for right now and the rest of the year, I'm going to say Takerufuji, because he has, first of all, he's a little bit older. Second of all, he's in Makuuchi right now, and Hakuoho isn't. And third of all, Takerufuji just won a tournament. So right now, Takerufuji, but I could easily see Hakuoho finishing the year super strong and taking over that by the end. Longtime viewer Weeksy5222 asks, do you think we see the end of Mongolian dominance? Ooh, that's a tough one. I think eventually, if sumo keeps going, and there's no reason to think it won't, it will eventually sort of change, because even in my lifetime, we've seen it sort of change from only Japanese to, all right, we're going to let in a few foreigners and Americans, and then it's like, no more Americans. But now Mongolians and Eastern Europeans, and then the Eastern Europeans have sort of faded by the side, except for like Shishi, and depending on where we count Kazakhstan in Eastern Europe. Now, I have discussed this in detail a lot before, but I think the one foreigner rule in sumo, the one foreigner per stable rule, has backfired. It has created a survivorship bias where only the toughest and strongest foreign rikishi can make it through. So when they get through the system, they dominate people because they are so much better prepared and so much tougher than a Japanese citizen who can just essentially walk into a sumo stable and be like, I'd like to try. If they're of age, they can do it. Now, other than the survivorship bias, I would say that the Mongolians have a very specific advantage because there are so many of them, and it's been going on for about 20 years now that the Mongolians have been coming in. They have their own sort of cultural infrastructure of expat Mongolian sumo wrestlers. So if you come in as a Mongolian, there is a support network now of veteran sumo wrestlers, of other wrestlers you can talk to who have a very similar cultural upbringing and speak the same native language you do. If you're coming in from another country, say from the United States, from the country of Georgia, say from Bulgaria, you would be coming into Japan with absolutely no infrastructure. So the short answer is, in the short term, I see the Mongolians dominating. In the long term, I think there would have to be some sort of underlying change that would change sort of the equation we have right now. But to paraphrase Jekyll and Hyde, the only thing constant is change. So I do think if sumo keeps going, Mongolian dominance will begin to wane with time for whatever reason. And finally, Malapert 4042112, sweet Rush reference, asks, why is Ura the best? Well, Ura is the best. Well, first of all, because anything can happen. He's a gymnast in the shape of a bowling ball, and you can't get away from that. And personally, he's my little panda man, and his little pink mawashi. So I guess I do have an answer for favorite mawashi color. The best wrestler mawashi color combo, clearly Ura in his cherry blossom pink mawashi. Thank you all so much for stopping by this Hagaki-Yoi. I am busy working on my predictions for the May tournament. You're not going to want to miss that. And all of our quick strikes will be coming up. So if you have not liked and subscribed, please do so. What are you waiting for? Price of free. Can't do better than that. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo.